A good old Northeast rivalry game between Boston College and Syracuse. Who takes it? We'll talk about it.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider and the host of Locked On Boston College. And we're doing a special crossover episode. We've been doing these all year with Locked On shows that have crossovers that we can do. And to join us today, we have Jackson Holzer of Locked On Syracuse to talk about this Saturday's game. Jackson, how's it going?
It's going well, AJ. How are you?
Hanging in there. It's been a rough month for Boston College as they went.
I'm going to ask you about that. I mean, it was a hot start for you guys, and then what happened?
All right, we'll get into me later. Well, I'm going to start with you, though, because 6-2. Fran Brown, talk to me about this coach, because this is a guy, BC, we are just coming off our own defensive backs coach who was getting his first gig, and Jeff Hafley didn't work out. Fran Brown seems to have it clicking. What is it about him that's get this program going?
I think he just gets it. That's the best way to put it. He's very good with the media. He understands what to say. He understands what we want to hear. But more importantly, right now this season, he's delivering on that. See, when he arrived at Syracuse, he said he is going to help recruiting because that was one of Syracuse's biggest issues. They could make a bowl game here or there. They couldn't capitalize it. They couldn't recruit well. So you bring in a guy in Fran Brown, who was the number one recruiter in the nation, albeit from Georgia, but still he comes in and immediately it's different. Like they would not have gotten a guy like Kyle McCord in the transfer portal if they had Dino Babers or if they hired literally anyone else. Anyone else, they would not have gotten a guy like Kyle McCord in the transfer portal or Fadil Diggs, or even kept a guy like Aronde Gadsden from entering the transfer portal. So Fran Brown delivered on that front very quickly. He did well in the transfer portal, did well with high school recruiting very quickly. Then it was like, okay, he's never been a head coach before. He's got to be able to win games, right? You got to put your money where your mouth is. You're starting to get a little bit more talent in the program. Win. And so far this season, there's been some ups. There's been some downs during games. But you look at the overall totality of it, they're 6-2. They're in a bowl game for the third straight season. They haven't done that in the 21st century. All right? So overall, I think the vibes are pretty good. I think overall, most people in the fan base would say that Fran Brown has done an excellent first job. And guess what? Season's not over just yet.
BC and Syracuse, they're both with first-year head coaches, and both of us being in the media, it's so interesting to see the differences in terms of just listening to the guys talk, right? So you get Bill O'Brien, who comes from the Bill Belichick tree, Nick Saban tree. I mean, I try to pull to get anything out of him. Can't get him anything. And this week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to something Fran Brown has to say. And I heard his conversation about, if you guys don't want to play, I'm going to throw the freshman out there. I was digging listening to him talk. I was like, this is interesting. Like, even if it didn't work out, I was like, this guy has got a personality to him. I could see why he connects with players. I don't want to say there's a little Dion in him, but it seems like he keeps
Dion has a little bit more personality to him, but they're both typically very good with the media. I mean, Dion sometimes will go over the line, which Fran Brown to this point has not. I wouldn't say that Fran at any point has gone over the line yet, but they are kind of similar where they get it.
Yeah.
They understand it. And look, you can make a pretty nice living like being like Bill Belichick and not always giving or tipping your hand or anything. But at the same time, it is nice and refreshing to have a guy like Fran Brown. And he's just going to tell you like it is.
Yep.
He tells you like it is. When he says like, okay, I'll just play the freshman, like he means it. He means it because last week, right, we're down 21-3 in the third quarter to Virginia Tech. They have a backup quarterback, backup running back. You're down 21-3 in the third quarter. This is coming off a really bad 4 quarters against Pitt on the road, a chance where Syracuse could have established themselves as a contender if you had won that game, and you get annihilated. So I understand where he's coming from. He's like, all right, you don't want to play again? Okay. We'll go with the freshman. Like it was enough. It woke him up clearly.
Yeah, definitely. That was a exciting come from behind win against the Hokies. And a big win for Syracuse. Now, Kyle McCord, that was a big turnaround game for him after, I mean, he was meme worthy the week before with 6 interceptions, and it was tough. It was tough to watch. I mean, if you're a Syracuse fan, I'm sure, to see what happened there. But I mean, everything else, you have to say that this has been a gigantic success to bring him here. And what makes him so dangerous, and what has he brought to this offense?
I think the best way to put it is he's a pro in college. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. I'm not saying he's Peyton Manning. I'm not saying he's Cam Ward for that matter. Like, he's not going to be a first-round pick. Best way to describe it, though, he's a pro in college. And I think he could have a nice NFL career where he maybe plays 5-10 years and maybe he gets a chance to start one way or another, or maybe he's a backup quarterback somewhere for make a nice living also being a backup quarterback in the NFL. But that's the best way to put it with Kyle McCord. He's very quick with his decisions, which at times can obviously bite him. Not the most mobile guy in the world. He will take some chances, hence why he's got a lot of interceptions. But he gets rid of the ball on time, and he's very good at moving within the pocket. Within the pocket, right? If you're not going to be the most mobile guy, you got to have good pocket awareness. You got to get rid of the ball on time, and you got to be able to move in the pocket, know how to avoid a rush here or there. That is what makes Kyle McCord special. And that game against Pitt, that's an aberration. I mean, there were a lot of people that were taking victory laps on him saying, like, I knew that was the Kyle McCord. You know, that's the Kyle McCord from Ohio State that everyone wanted, that everyone thought he was no good, right? That's him. That's the real him. I don't think he's ever had a game like that in his life. I mean, he's a 5-star recruit in high school. He was throwing to Marvin Harrison in high school. He didn't have 5 interceptions in any game at Ohio State. I mean, I looked back. I checked. I mean, he didn't. That was the worst game of his life. And he rebounded, had a solid game against Virginia Tech. Didn't throw for 300 yards for the first time all season, but who cares? They got the win.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you get a guy that can move the ball. He's got 4 receivers with 35 receptions or more. You've got some good weapons out there, and then you've got Lakeem Allen, who's, you know, Bill O'Brien said today was one of the best running backs in the ACC. You know, this offense, it reminds me almost like some of the earlier days when you had why am I blanking on his name? Beginning of Dino Babers. God, I'm
Dungy?
Yeah, Eric Dungy. Thank you. He smoked BC. Like a totally different style, but like
completely
you're getting
different. Yeah,
right. But you're getting a lot of points, and it's like that kind of efficient like offense that can score quick. And I think that's going to be a big challenge for Boston College. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, tell me a little bit about the defense, because I don't, I think a lot of folks, for me, I know about Elijah Robinson, being your new defensive coordinator. I think he's a stud in the making. What is this defense looking like? What's going on with the Orange there?
Defense is definitely the weaker link of the two. I think you've laid it out nicely. I mean, yeah, Syracuse has been mostly an offensive team or an air raid offense. Except last week, you got to adjust your personnel. That's on coaching, because Virginia Tech can't really stop the run. So they ran the ball down their throat the entire game, even when they were losing. Defense is the weak link, though. They can be had. Do they generate a huge pass rush? They do not. Do they have the most excellent corners in the world? Nope. And they also struggle with tackling at times. I mean, we've seen plays over the course of this season. It's a 5-yard in route. Guy breaks 3 or 4 tackles. It turns into a 70-yard game. It can be had. That's for sure. The key with the defense is, can you hold your opponent to like 24? If you can hold them to like 24, you're in good shape.
All right. So that's that. We're doing a quick little overview of each of our teams. In a moment, I'm going to let Jackson talk to me about BC, and I already know where he's going with this, because we're going to talk about the month of October that we wish never happened. We'll get into all that in just a moment. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash and can be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement bonus on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com. Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Get ready to tackle the NFL with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I've been talking about FanDuel for years now because I love it. It's the best for using for making my NFL wagers. I've been fading on the Patriots all season. Whatever the wager is, going against it.
That's a good bet, except when they're playing the Jets.
Except and I'm waiting for Drake May to kind of snap out of it. And to like have an explosive game, and it's going to bite me for it. But I've been doing pretty well by doing my fading on them all season. You could do that too with FanDuel. And you know what the best part is? We're busy people. Sometimes you don't get your wager in before the start of the game. You can get in anytime. Watch the game, figure it out. Like maybe it's the middle of the first quarter. They have anytime bets. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. So you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked on Boston College, Locked on Syracuse crossover episode here, and we are discussing this upcoming game on Saturday. It's a noon game. I just tweeted out it's about 50 degrees. They're going to say about game time, but I saw the temperature and it's going to dip. And if you know Alumni Stadium late in the season, it gets cold quick, so it could get a little colder for this game. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for more action for some of the other games, check out Locked on ACC. It's on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. It's a great, some great hosts over there with Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They do a great job. Check that out on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Now, I'm going to take a backseat here and let Jackson interview me about Boston College. So, Jackson, you're up.
All right, AJ. I think the best way to start this is what happened? What happened to Boston College? You start the year 4-1. It was looking really good. I mean, it was a very good 4-1, I would say. And the one loss was on the road at Missouri, who was, I think, the 5th ranked team in the country at that point. And it was a close loss, too. It was a 1-possession game. I thought Boston College at one point might win the game.
Yep.
So what led to Boston College's hot start? And then what happened? Why all of a sudden a 3-game losing streak?
So, all right, we'll start off with the way this season, it's been a roller coaster, right? So you start the season off, and I know Florida State is hot garbage right now, but they were number 10 when you faced them. I know they lost to Georgia Tech, but because of that weird week 0 not ranking thing, BC got them at top 10 in Florida State, and they basically just ran the ball down their throat. Ran for like 270 yards. They were dominating that game, and go on to win. They crushed Duquesne. Then they go to Missouri, as you said. They were winning. They were up like 14-0 at one point, but they just didn't have the weapons to do it. And Thomas Castellanos made like I think 2 interceptions that ended up crushing them. Against Michigan State, they come back and win that game. They storm the field. That was fun. Red bandana game. They then go against Western Kentucky. Thomas Castellanos is hurt. He doesn't play. So they start at Grayson James, and he's not good. He went like 7 of 16. And
I know that feeling.
Like, no.
It's not good.
There's a few writers that I see at a lot of these practices, and they're like, yeah, Grayson James should be like, all right. The offensive line's not good enough for him to do much, and he's not accurate. So Donovan Azaraku won them that game. Then things start falling apart. So Thomas Castellanos comes back. He had 3 or 4 turnovers against UVA. One of them where he got the ball swiped out of his hands right into Jonas Sanker's hands, and he ran it in for a touchdown that basically sealed that loss. They go to Virginia Tech. They come out looking like absolute garbage to start the game. They're down 28-0. They come back. They almost tie it in the third quarter. They're down 28-21. There was a 4th and 1. They got stuffed, and it just fell apart from there. They just didn't have the guns to do it. And then against Louisville, am I missing a lot? No, that's Louisville, right? So Louisville, they're up 20-0. 20-0 at one point in the second quarter, making turnovers. They're getting plays. And then it was a lot of gadget kind of stuff. So they were making turnovers and getting short field. And then Louisville figured it out. And BC's offense just And the overarching theme of all this is BC's punting is one of the most offensive things I've ever seen in my life. Like against punting, their punting is awful.
So you guys also have a bad special teams.
Oh,
this is going to be fun.
So there was the Virginia Tech game. We're looking for turnovers. Like I think Thomas Castellanos put the ball on the ground 3 times against Virginia Tech after fumbling and throwing interceptions against Virginia. So you're watching the Louisville game. He makes no turnovers. Great, right? But the punts were basically turnovers. Like they had a 22-yard punt from like the 20-yard line against Louisville. That's a touchdown. They had like a 30-yard punt. And the worst part of all this is they've cycled in 3 or 4 guys and none of them can punt. None of them can consistently punt.
Does Boston College have a soccer team by chance?
We've been saying there needs to be an open audition. We did
listen.
We had a kicker at one point.
Campaigning for many, many years that I think a solution to punting is take a goalie from soccer. Have you ever seen how far they can punt a soccer ball? It's insane.
Yeah.
You telling me they can't punt a football? Just give them a little bit of training. They can do it.
They need a sports psychologist for this team because I've gone to enough practices to watch them and I'm like, he's booming it. And then I'm sitting up at the press box. It's off the side of his foot. It's, he's shanking it. It's like, what is going on? So that is
yips.
Yeah. It seriously cost them the game against that. And their offense was horrible. It cost them the game against Louisville. So it's just been, as Bill says, they have not been able to put together 60 minutes of football. And it's like inconsistencies here and there. And it's cost them 4 games. So that's kind of the long end of the short of there.
The thing is, though, with Boston College is even though they are 4-4, it's not a game that Syracuse should take lightly. First of all, you're on the road. And second of all, I look at all the games, and for the most part, aside from Virginia Tech, the games are close.
Yeah.
The games are close with Boston College. Like it really, aside from Duquesne, it honestly doesn't even really matter the opponent. It's kind of just close regardless. You mentioned some of the shortcomings of Thomas Castellanos, but he was someone who I was not high on at the beginning of the season. I didn't think he was very good at all. I was like, he can run. I know he's got 1,100 rushing yards. That's cool, but he can't throw. He's got 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions last year. This year, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So a much, much better ratio here. How has he been able to progress as a passer this season?
I mean, it's good. He's not great. He has his moments. I think the big thing with him is consistency. And, there's times like when you watch the Louisville game where he'll find like a guy wide open and nail it. And having him work with Bill O'Brien has been a huge deal, right? Bill's worked with Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young. Like he's, you name it. He's had that experience, and he's worked with him specifically to make him more of a pocket passer. Now, the bad side of that is I feel like, just like I said with the yips with the punter, it's also gotten in his head too. Like if you look at his rushing yards, he's not the same passer or runner anymore because he's learning how to be a pocket quarterback. But I kind of hate it because it takes the one thing away from him that makes him special. He's a 5'9" quarterback. I don't need to see Thomas Castellanos sitting in a pocket trying to read defenses. I want to see Thomas Castellanos. Yeah, I'd love to make sure he doesn't throw a ton of interceptions like he did last year. But I'd rather see him make a quick read, and if it's not there, run. And he's not doing that. He's sitting there reading and making 2 or 3 reads. The offensive line's not all that good. So then he's getting chased, and he doesn't – I don't know if he's hurt or whatever, but he's not the same guy as last year. So he's not able to run the ball as effectively. And that piece, personally, like the offense was what it was last year, but it had an identity and could do things a lot, right? Like they were a power running team. They were like 10th in the country at one point. They couldn't pass the ball to save their lives, but they could run it. And that was what they were going for. They can't do that right now. And that's a big issue. Bill, again, like this week was just saying at press conference, they got to pass the ball better. I'm like, please stop having him like he's not making good reads. He's missing guys that are wide open and doesn't see them. And then you got wide receivers who on paper look okay, but they're also struggling to get open too. So it's been a kind of I feel like that has been one of the biggest issues. The defense has been fine. Like they're limited in some ways, but the offense has just not been consistent enough. And there's times where this offense just looks bad.
I get it. I mean, I think the next step with Castellanos, it's put it all together.
Right.
We've seen he can run. This year, he has improved. His numbers look better.
Yep.
Put it together. Next season, that's what he's got to do. Maybe it's this game. Hopefully not. Hopefully he wakes up after Syracuse game. That would be nice. I'll let you have that.
I would say, you know what's going to be interesting is, and this is just me spitballing. I've said this on my show a bunch of times. So the coaches, if they're listening, I've said this before. You know, Castellanos is a Jeff Hafley guy. I get the sense based off of the recruiting and the quarterbacks they're going for that Bill's not all that thrilled with mobile quarterbacks. Like he likes guys that can move a little.
I mean, when he was with Watson, I mean, Watson was a mobile guy.
Right. That's a different type of mobile, like a guy that can move in the pocket and can run a little bit, but like he's not like Castellanos, who's like
no. I mean, he's not going to run. I mean, Deshaun was never a guy who was going to run for 1,000. He wasn't Lamar Jackson, but he was one of the more mobile quarterbacks in the league when he was in Houston. I mean, that's kind of surprising to me how he wouldn't like a guy like Castellanos.
He says he
maybe
likes
he's so used to a guy like Watson who was an NFL guy and was once really good. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I think I think he's more interested in the passing mechanics than the running mechanics, right? Like he wants a guy that can throw it, and maybe if Castellanos isn't able to do it the way he wants him to, I'm just curious if this is going to be our quarterback next year. Just, you know, whether it's, you know, a variety of decisions there. Just a thought I've had. Bill says over and over again that he loves him. I know he's very well respected within the school. I'm just curious. It's just something I think about sometimes.
It's fair to wonder. I mean, in this day and age with the transfer portal, you never quite know. And hey, you know what? Just spitballing here, since we're spitballing right now. Kyle McCord's it doesn't have any more years of eligibility after this, so Syracuse is going to be in the quarterback market potentially. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not naming names, but since you're okay.
I mean, Auburn and Ole Miss reached out to him last year, so I know they were trying to get him to transfer, and he wouldn't do it. So you never know. And then you think about there's plenty of really good quarterbacks that may fit what Bill's trying to do more that would like to work with Bill O'Brien. You know what I mean? Like there's guys out there. I'm like, look at like USC right now. And I don't know how good he is anymore, but like Miller Moss is getting benched.
Yep.
Would he like to get his, feet wet working with Bill? You never know. Like something like that could happen and just surprise you. And there's something I've been thinking of.
Well, you never quite know. Overall, what would you say are BC's biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses?
So their ability to run the ball has been probably their biggest strength, I think. Like not just Castellanos, like their power running the ball. When they do it, I think it's been good. Now their offensive coordinator is Will Long. He was the tight ends coach for the Patriots with Bill. It's his first year calling plays. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the ways that he's constructing these offenses, but when he gets things going, they can be good. They got this guy Turbo Richard. He missed last week. I love his name. He's a running back, true freshman. Probably their most talented running back. Like you guys saw Kai Robichaux last year, who was a big physical dude. This guy's got more explosiveness to him. And it's just starting to get he's just getting his feet wet. So I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. It didn't sound like it when Bill was talking on a podcast today. But you never know. That's a big strength. And takeaways, they're big. Their defense is they're ball hawks. Like they're going to make mistakes. They're very much into bend don't break. So you're not going to get a ton of huge plays against this defense. You can march down the field all the time on them, but they also will get. They had I think 3 or 4 turnovers against Louisville. So they've been doing a lot of that. Now they got to stop turning the ball on the other side. So that's the weakness, right? They as equally as they take the ball away, they give it away. Now they didn't do that against Louisville, but I said the punts were basically turnovers. And then the other big issue, and why Brent mentioned Allen, is their run defense has been inconsistent since probably midway through the Virginia game. And we saw pieces of it against Missouri too, where they just, there's been some big plays like Bayshal Tootin for Virginia Tech just murdered BC.
We were lucky we didn't have to face Tootin last week.
Yeah. So he had 285 yards and 4 touchdowns against BC. He just basically took them out. So that's something. And then punting. Yeah, that's the big issue. So
listen, if they need someone to punt 20 yards off the side of the foot, call me. I can do that.
I was just kicking a football in my backyard going, can I do that? And no, I can't do that, but I tried.
One of my prouder moments, it's sad to say, but this is one of my prouder moments of athletics. I mean, I wasn't a football player growing up. So I went to the College Football Hall of Fame last April, and they have a field goal set up. I know it's field goal, not punting, but they have a field goal set up.
Yep.
It's about 20 yards. They give you like a try on it. Like you can try to kick a field goal. I made it first try.
Wow.
Barely squeaked it in. I'm talking like barely. It was like short right, but I like just snuck it in there. And I was like, that's the pinnacle of my football career.
I was gonna say, like most of those like halftime or like commercial games that they have sometimes where they bring on random people to kick field goals, you got to add like another 5 yards because I think they're usually like 25 yards. So you probably, if you just hit it on 20, probably a little short. But maybe if you do some practicing, you can win on one of those things, right? The pressure of thousands of people watching you might be hard.
Listen, I would play hockey in front of thousands of people and be okay. If Boston College is looking for some hockey players, but no, I do not want to kick a football in front of thousands of people. I don't think it would go very well.
No.
All
right, I figured it would. All right. In a moment, we'll chat. We're going to both give our predictions. So Jackson and I will talk about what we think is going to happen in this game, give our predictions, and a whole lot more. We'll finish off our show in just a moment. Guys, you ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? It's time that you stop worrying about your performance and get Him, so you can feel confident knowing that you get hard and stay hard wherever you're in the mood. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. And no insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedon to get your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned here are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Locked On Boston College and Locked On Syracuse crossover episode. This is fun. We've been having a good time talking about this Big East rivalry. I think this is game 50.
There we go. You got to bring up the Big East.
57, I think. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm old enough to be the worst game I'm not going to say it's the worst. With BC and Wake Forest, 3-0 was the worst game I've ever seen in my life. The second worst game was Diamond Ferry. When BC, this is many moons ago, when a young Matt Ryan was taken off the bench and started his first game against Syracuse. All he had to do was win that game, and BC was going to make a BCS bowl game for the first time in program history. And a local Syracuse guy, Diamond Ferry, who I don't feel like did anything else that season, absolutely crushed BC. He must have had like 400 all-purpose yards in that game and just ran up and down.
Diamond Ferry?
Diamond Ferry. Ferri.
Diamond Ferry, Syracuse.
Yep. If your older Syracuse fans are going to know about it. And
they will definitely know him.
And my older BC fans are projectile vomiting right now.
So this was in 2004, I'm going to assume, correct?
Yep. Season finale.
Okay, we're pulling up these stats right now. Forgive me. Yeah, he had done nothing in his entire career, and then has 28 carries for 141 and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm reading this right, he also had an interception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did that.
So he was a running back and a defensive back.
Mm-hmm. He did everything. And he was from Massachusetts, so it was great. So anyways, side tangent there. Let's talk about predictions for this game. You want to go first, Jackson?
Sure. So last week was the very first time on the Locked On Syracuse podcast that I just so happened to pick against Syracuse. It ended up going pretty well. I kind of find it weird. The point spread in this game, I believe, is actually in favor of Boston College.
It's depending on the
very interesting. It's like FanDuel has it as a 1.5 right now for Boston College.
Yep.
I think Syracuse is going to win outright. I think they can, obviously they can win in Boston College. It's not like the most intimidating environments of the world. I think they got off the schneid in the second half against Virginia Tech, at least for the offense, that is.
Mhm.
So I think they'll win this one. I think it'll be close. But I got Syracuse 31-24.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I'm gonna also go with Syracuse in this one. I'm waiting for this offense to figure out what it's doing. Because there's a talent there. I've watched it. There's times where they look great, but as Bill keeps saying, they're not consistent enough in the execution and the play calling. So you're playing a team when you're playing a team like Syracuse, just like when BC played Louisville a couple weeks ago, you're playing a team that can score. You have a team that can put up points quick. You have to be able to score. And BC has not shown that they consistently can do that enough for me to feel confident. Now, could they go out there and make a few, make Kyle McCord make a few mistakes and take advantage of that? Absolutely. Remember, this team's off a bye week too. So BC was off last week. So they've been able to rest their, that could be why the point spread's the way it is too, is Vegas always
Syracuse doesn't normally do well when they have a bye week. Maybe Boston
Vegas looks at it like for that. I don't know.
Yep.
But
it does matter.
Yeah. But I, especially without Turbo, when he's healthy, he's going to be the focal point of that offense more than Tommy, I think. And they're missing Cam Arnold, who may or may not play their starting middle linebacker, who's been their middle linebacker for about 20 years, it feels like. He may not play either. Bill said they're both day to day. I love when coaches say that because who the hell knows what that means. But if they're both out, that's big because Cam's going to have to be. You need a good middle linebacker to kind of take away the middle for against Syracuse. Get Owen McGowan, who scored a touchdown last year as a fullback for BC. He's the starting middle linebacker now. He's had some moments, but he's not Cam Arnold. He's just not. So I think, as you said, 31-24 sounds good. I'm going to go with like 35-24 or something like that.
So you have it a little bit more in Syracuse's favor. You don't think it is? When do you think it gets out of hand for Boston College in that case?
I could see Syracuse jumping quick and then BC kind of clawing their way back. It's kind of been their thing. Okay. And then maybe Syracuse scores a touchdown to like put it away late,
I think it's going to be fourth quarter. This is going to be like a 3-point game. And then at some point, Syracuse is going to do something it's going to ice the game effectively.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that Boston College is going to have the ball late in the game, but they're going to be down 2 possessions.
Yep.
And they're probably going to score and going to need an onside kick to get the ball back.
Yep. And I could envision that. I could totally envision, and the thing that you mentioned about Alumni Stadium, like the fans will probably already cleared out because by halftime it's like maybe like 20 points or whatever, and BC starts clawing back, but it's usually in front of a lot of aluminum benches.
I didn't mean to insult Boston College, by the way.
I was just saying,
in terms of overall environments, this is not the hardest place in this country to play. Okay, we're not going into Death Valley here.
It's a weird situation there though, because the quietness at times, and I gotta be honest, like the start, as you mentioned, the start of the season, the place was packed. The Michigan State game, they were sold out. They've sold out, and that was pouring. They've done a good job with that, but now with 3 straight losses, the fans are starting to get grumbly again. So they're fickle. That's what sports fans are fickle. So I'm sure they'll be there for this game, but how loud they'll be, I think, is another question. All right, Jackson, we've gone a little late, so
that's all good.
It's all good. We had a fun time talking BC Syracuse, and I don't want to talk BC Syracuse basketball this year because I don't really want to talk about BC basketball, period, if I don't have to.
It's okay, because right now we're not looking too hot either. We just beat Lemoyne by a couple points.
I saw that. So I felt good about that.
Thank goodness at least we won. Oh, my goodness. At least we won. I was like...
You were down for a bit, I saw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like... It's bad enough that you won by only 4 points against Lemoyne.
Yep.
But if you had lost, your season could be like over. Like you can recover. You can recover. All you got to do in a couple games is beat Texas.
Right.
Beat Texas on a neutral site. Then you're fine.
But it's a loss that you never hear the end of.
Yeah, but you just can't lose to Lemoyne unless you're going to win like 29 straight after. Can't do it.
Right. Yeah, BC was against the Citadel, so it's kind of similar, right? Like their Ken Palm rating was like 380 or something like that.
And it was only 69-60. Oof.
Yeah, BC was up by like 15 at one point. Their basketball team right now, I watched like all their star players from last year, and BC was decent. I mean, they were NIT last year. Like all of them left, like all top 7 scorers left, and they I don't think they got enough guys in the portal to deal with that. Like you lose Quentin Post and Jaden Zachary, and that's it.
Yep.
So, anyways, we've talked a lot. We've said it all. Jackson, where can people find you?
Locked On Syracuse at LO_Syracuse on Twitter. You can also find my personal Twitter at Jackson_H52. So be sure to check me out there.
And I'm AJ Black. I'm the host of Locked On Boston College. You can find me wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Also, I'm the host of I say this wrong, the Locked On Boston Postcast. So on Saturday after the game, depending on what happens, if BC gets throttled, I probably won't go to the press conference just because Bill will probably be mad and nothing's going to come out of that. My listeners know he yelled at me the other day. So
he yelled at you? What did
you?
Yeah,
What
did you ask him?
I asked him about. They were down 2 scores against Virginia Tech in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and something, and I didn't write down the yardage down. And he went for a field goal down 14 with 8 minutes left in the game. And I was thinking to myself, why?
Like usually, I mean, if it was like 4th and 15, I mean, you got to kick
it. That's where I screwed up because it was 4th and 13, and I said 4th and 6th, and he got self-effacing and grumpy, and it was like, I screwed up, blah blah blah. But then I listened to him with his our local radio show podcast, and he was ripping me. He wasn't saying my name, but he's like, yeah, some guy asked me this, blah 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 blah. And he get the damn yardage right. I'm like, I didn't know you were going to ask me. Like I should have. I learned my lesson there, but
that's all good. We make mistakes.
Yeah, but anyways, I will be going live after the game from the press box. So Syracuse fans, if you want to check it out, I promise you, I'm not a honk. I talk about everything that BC does well. I talk about what goes wrong. You'll hear everything about that. Locked On Boston Postcast, and I'm on Eagle Insider, part of 247 Network. If you want to get your BC news over there, come check me out. All right. Thank you, Jackson, for coming on, and we'll see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, Locked On Syracuse, your team every day.